Today, Zach Gross, CEO of MGMT Digital, joins us to explain why behavioral health providers can't afford to ignore branding and how to build one that connects, converts, and lasts. Okay, well, we got Zach in the studio today. Thanks, Zach. Or should I say, not the studio, but beautiful Miami. We're really excited to have Zach on the show. We're going to talk all about branding. But first, I just want Zach to kind of take the stage here and tell us a little bit about you and why we would talk to you about branding.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited to talk about this topic. I think it's an important one. I am the founder and CEO of MGMT Digital. We are a boutique digital marketing agency that's been around for the past 8 years. A lot of the work that we do, we're a full service digital marketing agency. There's a lot of talks within this industry when you're talking about digital, which is lead generation, which is super important, of course. But I think a lot of people ignore branding as a whole within the industry, and it's becoming more and more important. I have strong beliefs that, the year that we're in and the future that we're going into is that branding is going to become more and more crucial and important.
Yeah. So let's jump in. I think first, just setting the stage for folks who are listening. When we are going to be talking about branding, when you are talking about branding, what do you mean?
So I think that a lot of people confuse or don't really know the difference between branding and marketing. And at a very basic level, branding is really the who we are and the why and the reasons we exist. And then the marketing is simply the promotion of all of that through different avenues. I think it's interesting. I have a lot of conversations with people on a daily basis, whether they're been in the space for a long time or whether they are brand new to the space. And branding seems to be the last thing that people want to talk about. This notion still exists of if I build it, they will come. If I just put a website up, if I just have a location, they will come, without recognizing the things that we need in order to effectively market the who we are stuff, the stuff that really sets you apart, the stuff that makes you a little bit different are so important. I think that branding is going to be one of the biggest things that differentiates established centers that have longevity in the space versus centers that might not be in it for the long haul.
Yeah, let's talk about, so branding versus marketing. So branding, you said, is kind of like the who you are, maybe the why you are here. And then the marketing is just the promotion. I'm making an assumption, but I think I'm right here. You are saying that folks are mostly focusing on marketing to the detriment of brand. And I guess, why do you think in this industry, is that a unique thing that we focus so much on the promotion and not so much on the branding? And why might that be?
I think it is unique just because there's always been such an emphasis on lead generation within the industry. I don't think it truly mattered for all that long. MGMT has been around for 8 years, right? And I've seen the industry go through so many shifts within that 8 years. It almost feels like 8 years has been like a lifetime within this industry because it's changed so much. Digital marketing 8 years ago was not the biggest avenue for people to do business within this industry. Whether that's right or wrong, it was referrals, business development, maybe done the wrong way in many cases in an unethical manner, but digital marketing wasn't the biggest talking point of how to do business within this industry. Now that it has become such a huge avenue, now that regulations have been put in place, laws have been passed, and the industry has shifted into something more ethical, Now there's just so much competition online. And within that competition, it's such an interesting thing. Maybe the people entering the space or a treatment center owner really doesn't have an understanding of the importance of it. It used to be just kind of putting up landing pages, running some ads, and being able to achieve results that way. The industry has now shifted where, since there's so much competition, there's so many options to choose from, right? And you give someone a lot of options, they're going to pick what speaks to them most.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So it started out early where you have kind of this out of house referral network that's
Mm,
bringing people into addiction treatment centers. So you have that. And then it was like, whoa, digital marketing, the internet, there is less competition there. Folks don't know how to do this yet. So you've got people focusing on SEO, focusing on PPC, seeing a lot of return.
yeah,
And then as the years go by and people wise up and they set up digital marketing teams within their organizations who are professionals at this stuff, it becomes harder and harder for you to stand out, let alone get the first spot on the Google SERP. And if you're just hoping that being at the top is what's going to get a conversion, that's not true anymore, because if you look at the SERPs these days, everyone is saying the same thing, right? It's got the keyword in there and it has a location, and so does the second result, and so does the third result.
mm,
So it sounds like now the next phase is branding, is distinctiveness to help someone choose between those top three identical search results. Is that where you're going with this?
absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. And users are clicking all of those top three, top five search results, and they're comparing. Users are getting a bit more educated as the competition rises as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The educated consumer is kind of a game changer for, lazy PPC done in a very basic way. So let's talk now about branding. So is it just, I don't know, I feel like this is the bad rap that branding gets. It is just colors and it's just font, and people don't understand how that connects at all to revenue.
Right.
What would you say to that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have a strong belief that branding really needs to be intentional. It's not just colors, fonts, a logo. There's so much more that goes into it. Those things are super important when we're talking about putting together a brand, but it's why are we choosing, why are we making these selections? Has there been any thought put into this? On top of the design elements, there's so much about messaging that's super important. Because like you said, there's things popping up in the search results, right, that all kind of say the same things. How many different ways can you spin kind of the same message over and over to make it feel different? These are all the things that my team discuss on a daily basis. At MGMT, what we've done a little bit different than what I see out there is that we have a whole branding department that we took a lot of time to build up, and putting together the messaging for a brand story of the why and what we're doing that's going to set us apart a bit really stems from just so much conversation with the client, right? When we are starting to work with a client, or maybe it's a client that their story has evolved a bit because they've been around for a long time, we just have long, long conversations with them. And we ask a lot of questions. And then we also set a lot of time for them to just have the floor and speak for a bit while we just sit there and listen, which I think has been really, really important. I think that when we're putting together branding, there's so many different elements that we can speak of. And some of that is how do we want to be perceived to the people coming to us? And some of that has to do with the font selection, the colorways that we're choosing. But really, if there's a lot of questions, the why, and then ultimately ending up somewhere and putting this all together, it really is like this cohesive beautiful thing that
Hmm.
shows. There's no doubt about it that it really shows. And what I find is that when owners of centers, when they care about that and they have a lot of passion about that, something really beautiful gets put together and is out there that you don't see a lot of within the space when you go to different websites and stuff like that.
Yeah. When you are working with clients, maybe they came to you. I mean, MGMT offers a lot of different marketing strategy and tactics and services. When someone comes to you, how do you kind of audit their company to determine, like, is there either a brand issue going on, or is there room to improve the brand?
Again, this goes back to just having a lot of conversation with them.
Yeah.
And then we have a lot of internal conversations, call them strategy meetings that we hold on a regular basis. And it's a lot of heads coming together that have a lot of experience within the space. Someone that gets super involved is our content manager. His name is Nick, and he has a team of writers. But what's really cool about Nick is that he is a writer himself and has been writing within the space for a long time. So everyone's doing their part. Nick is going to look at the brand messaging. What is the mission that they have up there right now? A lot of times we come across companies and websites that don't have any mission, philosophies, visions, and we have to help them put that all together. And then we have a client brand manager, Anna Hernandez, who has done such an incredible job. She started as a social media coordinator on our team years ago, and I've worked alongside her for a very long time building up this branding department. And she's really incredible where she took this something that didn't exist and kind of just built it up and expanded on it. And it's continued to expand throughout the years that we've been doing this. Her and I will have a lot of conversations with these clients that come on board, and we ask them questions like, what is speaking to you? What is your vision? With what you have currently, are you in love with it or are you not? Because if you're not in love with it, how is anyone else going to be?
Hmm.
So a lot of really, really awesome people getting together and just taking the necessary time, asking the right questions, and having really good conversations with people, and it matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you see like a number of common mistakes that folks are making with their own branding?
The biggest mistake would be not focusing on it at all and thinking that it doesn't matter. And then I think that if they do have a lot of care and passion for creating a brand, it's important to get other outside opinions and have other people in your corner that can help you bring this to life because all this stuff is a lot for one person. I think that it's super important to be open and objective when it comes to other people's thoughts and opinions.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to judge yourself.
Absolutely.
Having outside opinions, whether it's from an agency who's helping out or another consultant, or just asking your clients, asking people who are going into treatment, what did they see on the website that stood out? Were there any negatives that they said, was this put out by the same folks that I'm working with? Those can be really helpful because you can often get blind to the things that you're putting out because you're just so in the weeds. Getting back to you just thinking brands don't matter, like what are some of the negative consequences of just not caring what brand you are presenting to the world?
Within this space specifically, I think that you are not going to achieve meaningful results that last a long time if you are not caring about what your brand is.
Yeah,
And
why do you think that is?
again, this industry is continuing to grow. It's growing more than I think anyone that's been in the space for a while could have imagined. There's just so many options out there. With so many options, there's just so much to choose from. It's as simple as that.
So yeah, let's go into that. When there are so many options, so much to choose from, how does branding help somebody choose you?
So within MGMT and my own personal experience, there's people on our team that are in long-term recovery. We have a very strong company mission, and everyone on our team, the biggest thing that I've been proud of is everyone on our team has a personal mission attached to the company mission, which really drives so much passion for the work that we do. It's the understanding that people aren't just like buying a service when they're looking for treatment. What they are looking for is hope, safety, credibility. Trust factor has been such an important thing. And it's been such an important thing where users are getting more educated as they should. They do have an understanding that this choice to go to this place is a very big one, and here's why I'm going to do it, as opposed to maybe they're looking at five different sites, and four out of the five are just kind of generic and repeated versions of the same
Yeah.
thing over and over. And then they come across this one really good one, this one that they maybe see a video of the founder on there talking about his story. Maybe they just get this feeling of trust when they come to it because of the things that they're saying. They're going to make that choice to call that place. That's within anything that we're getting as a service in life that's not super unique to just this industry. Obviously, this is a really sensitive one and an important one because the people suffering are in such vulnerable spots within their lives, but they need to see that trust come through, that credibility, that, and a huge thing is authenticity. Does this speak to me? Does this relate to me? And do they care?
Hmm. Yeah, I love how you put it so succinctly that I wrote it down in my notes. It says people aren't just buying a service here. So branding, probably more than just marketing and promotion, is what people will sense about you and what will help them ultimately take that leap of faith to actually reach out to you. So, how does branding help build trust?
I believe it's everything when it comes to building trust. And it's everything within the space because really branding should reflect who you are, why you care, and what makes you different. And that's not just visually, that's emotionally, and that's, of course, ethically, which I think is so crucial.
Yeah. And it seems like there's kind of different tiers of this as well. So, like, you can build trust through branding by having a consistent appearance, something that's high quality. So they come to your website and it's, I think you say this on your website, it doesn't look like a GeoCities website
Mhm.
created in, the 90s with a trail of stars following the mouse around the screen
Absolutely.
and Comic Sans font and a lot of spelling errors or just a glitchy looking website. So when you care about your presentation, that's part of branding, part of creating an impression. That alone is like baseline level. Same with if you have brochures that you're handing out at local events, they should look like your website. They should have the same color palette, they should use the same fonts, have similar messages so that when folks are jumping between brochure to website, they know they're in the right spot. That's one tier of like building trust. But the
Cohesive.
other tier, which is like more, I don't know, hard to grasp, is like an emotional trust. And I really would love to hear just kind of how branding can impact that side of it. Not of just like, okay, these guys look like they're legit,
Mhm.
but oh, these guys look like they know me and they can help me.
Yeah.
How does branding help on that level?
We're in a time where like anyone can put something together that looks presentable from a web design standpoint, which is super important when we're talking about increasing conversions and things of that nature. But it's so much more important than that. And we see it, and you can see it through data too. When we have a video on a homepage versus when we don't have a video on a homepage, time on site increases, conversions increase. With that being said, I think it's really about people taking the time and the energy, the understanding of knowing that this is something important and something that they have to invest in, and just going that little bit of an extra mile to display everything that you're talking about when it comes to that trust and that emotion. It's just about putting that energy into it and a lot of, I'd say, like care and passion into it and understanding ways that we can do that. Again, this comes through messaging. Do they have a unique story? We have a content manager for a reason. We have a client brand manager for a reason, someone that specifically focuses on these things. It's not up to, say, an owner that is coming to us for marketing to put this together themselves. That's why we're there. But having an understanding that it needs to be there and it's going to make a difference is so important.
Yeah. I know branding can get really fuzzy for folks who are especially kind of suspicious of it at the beginning, but let's kind of talk. I think knowing the process of branding, especially how MGMT does it,
Sure.
would be really helpful because these aren't just like gut feels. You
Mhm.
know, you guys do a lot of research before you start recommending the changes to the brand, from the brand identity to the brand values. So I'm just kind of curious, what data, what inputs are going into the act of rebranding or refreshing a brand before you guys start?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a rather extensive onboarding process. Again, this goes back to a lot of conversation. And these decisions that we make are backed by data. Of course, there are certain colorways that perform better than others within our space. So it's important to have strong data to back opinions. Branding is such a subjective thing, right? It's not this thing that is super cut and dry. It's a fine balance of coming up with being creative and unique and being transparent. There's a lot of things that work within this industry and work well where you don't want to reinvent the wheel on literally everything. So the process, again, whether this is a lot of conversation with our client who we're working with or internally, there's just so much conversation that is involved. And a lot of this goes into like exercises that we're doing. And we're asking ourselves questions internally of what the starting point may be. And we're asking the client about so many different things.
Yeah.
Basic questions. Why are you in the space? What's your story? What's the history here? That's where it really starts.
Yeah. I think there's also, you look at competitors who are nearby, either physically or at least nearby in the search results. Are you doing that in order to understand, what they're putting out into the world so that someone could be seen as distinct from that? What good is kind of competitor landscape analysis when branding comes in?
It's important. It's something that we're looking at all times. This is from the branding perspective, but this is also how is their SEO performing? What are they doing within all their marketing channels? Of course, we're looking at all that stuff. With that being said, I think there is an element of you can draw inspiration from other things out there, but inspiration does not mean a cut and copy. So coming up with something that's unique is what we're always going to do. When we're talking about web design within the space that comes after the branding process, we've never built a site that is the same from the next. There's large agencies out there and it's an efficient way of doing work, but they'll kind of use the same template over and over. They can kind of just spit out work that way. We've never been about that, and we're never going to be about that. One, because we have such an interest in the branding process and the
Mm-hmm.
creative side. But two, we need our clients to stand out on their own.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Now, there's a lot of components in branding. So when you're thinking about the components, try to help us connect like the font choice to how you resonate with whomever you've decided is, your best fit client.
Absolutely. When we're talking about things like colorways and font choice, it could start as a simple conversation of how do you want to appear in the world? Let's talk about some words that you want people to feel when they come to you. Some people use the words as we really want to be buttoned up and professional, or we really want to be creative and unique and fun and a bit more on the modern leaning side. So, with that, obviously, there are certain options that we can choose just from having those conversations. Are we going to use a serif font versus a sans serif, which, a serif kind of leans a little bit more professional and a little bit more buttoned up as opposed
Yeah.
to a sans serif where we can get a little bit more creative.
Is there a time when brand doesn't matter? I mean, say I'm starting a brand new venture up. Should I be focusing on brand right away? If I am a person who's been in the industry, the organization's 20 years, 30 years old, do I need to worry about brand as much?
Brand always matters. Again, big believer in focus on that branding, have an understanding that that branding matters, and build up a really good brand. And a lot will follow just from that. Just like you could have really strong amenities at a treatment center, but if your clinical program's not great, you're not going to make it too far.
Yeah. Where do you think the industry is going with brand? I know we kind of talked about these different phases of marketing. What do you see kind of being at, part of an agency that is on the forefront of branding within behavioral health? Are folks picking this stuff up? What are we going to start seeing, you think?
I think branding is right now getting more and more important, and that's just going to continue to happen. It's actually sort of baffling in a way that it hasn't mattered as much as it has for as long as it's been. But I do think that branding is going to be a huge differentiator from those that are going to have longevity within the space and going to create a long lasting impact versus those that will just simply fade out.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, as the marketing channels get more stuffed up with people who are trying to get the same eyeballs, you need a new way of standing out. And branding is one of those answers. You could also spend a lot more money every month on your PPC, but man, there's going to be a plateau. And if you aren't concerned about your brand, then if someone actually clicks on that and they get to your website and they're disappointed, then that's money down the drain. So I always love brand and performance really complement each other so well. They
Right.
make your dollars you're spending on, classic digital marketing go much further than if you just had a white box as a landing page and no soul to your website.
Right. I think a lot of people have been very short sighted within the industry. It's just how do I achieve results quickly? And branding is one of those things that it's not viewed as important because it takes time to build a brand, establish that brand, and show the world that your brand is trustworthy. Even my experience as a business owner with owning MGMT, I've always been really focused on the brand and who we are as an agency and who we are as people. I've always wanted to showcase that we are really relationship focused within this industry. We are experts within the industry that we're working in. We have been real and authentic the entire time. We're 8 years in now, and I think all of that focus on the brand has gotten us to where we are today. The brand has evolved within those years. The mission and the who we are continues to remain the same, which I think has been such a beautiful thing. Our look and feel might have gotten a little bit different. The decisions we make when we're selecting how do we want people to feel when they come to our site? What are the selections that we're making with fonts and colorways? Those things have evolved, and I think that one of the things that I always found most important is as a brand, I want to showcase us as people. So if you come to MGMT site, you're going to see a lot of videos with us in it. You're going to see a lot of imagery of the team because that's what makes us us, right? I think that's so important. I do think it's something that sets us apart. I know other agencies, you don't really see them as people.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point, and I think it's there's a corollary with the websites of an addiction treatment center, showing your people, helping the folks who are visiting your website envision themselves not only in the rooms and in the yard or swimming in the pool, but working with the folks who are on your clinical team, saying hello to the folks who are managing the desk. Anything you can do to show who you are as a human being will connect better with the human being on the other side of the computer screen
Absolutely.
than just throwing a bunch of jargon, IOP, PHP at them and listing your services. That's how people shop for something as personal as addiction treatment.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I just wanted to talk about one thing you've got on your website, which is you never get a second chance to make a first impression.
Hmm.
What is that about? What does that mean?
Within our branding department, we have a quote. We actually put it on our website, which is that you never get a second chance to make a first impression, which speaks to everything that we're talking about of why branding is so important. It's the message that you're putting out there, the website that people are going to come to, and whether people are looking for treatment for the first and last time, whether they've been suffering and on this journey of seeking help for a long time, that impression that they get and that feeling that they get is you got one chance to get that right.
Awesome. Well, Zach, it's been awesome having you in the studio. Thanks so much for sharing your insights about branding. If folks want to learn more about MGMT Digital, where should they go?
Head to our website, mgmtdigital.com. There's a lot of good information about us on there. You can always reach out, call. We love to talk. We'd be happy to have a chat, and we'd love to meet you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
All right. That's today's episode. Thanks for listening to Recovery Reach. We'll see you again next week. And remember, the more people you reach, the more you can help.